Before we delve into the story of my personal quest, in which the fate of Benvenuto Cellini's self-portrait was decided, I want to vividly demonstrate how and why art historians are closely connected to the shadow power existing on our planet. The world perceived by genuine qualified art historians differs from the world inhabited by ordinary people. Allow me to provide a couple of concrete examples to illustrate my thesis. In a small enclave of billionaires on the French Riviera in Monaco, there is a highly respectable bank called CMB or CMB Monaco. A person lacking qualifications as an art historian or lacking specific contextual clues would decipher this abbreviation quite simply: Compagnie Monégasque de Banque, exactly as it's written on documents or plastic cards. However, a specialist in occult symbols would immediately recognize in this abbreviation the names Caspar, Balthazar, and Melchior. C for Caspar, M for Melchior, and B for Balthazar. These three names belong to the three so-called wise men, aka three kings, aka three Magi. The mysterious Magi appear solely in the Bible, in the Gospel of Matthew, which states they were wise men who came from the east to worship the King of the Jews. Guided by a mysterious star, these Magi came to worship Jesus Christ when the child was born in Bethlehem. However, in another gospel, the Gospel of Luke, there is a similar story of three wise men also coming to worship Jesus, but they are not Magi, they are shepherds. Representatives of the shadow power, symbolically, merged these two biblical narratives into one for their purposes. The images of shepherds naturally represent the rulers, leaders of our society, that is, representatives of authority. And the image of the Magi, in turn, gives these shepherds a characteristic rooted in the teachings of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. Plato said that philosophers should rule the world, meaning that Magi should rule the world. The Magi, in turn, always live in an occult, hidden world. Thus, the well-known art historical theme of the Adoration of the Magi takes on a completely different meaning. The figures of the infant and the Virgin Mary fade into the background, and the main actors become representatives of authority. The names of the Magi Caspar, Balthazar, and Melchior are not mentioned in the Bible. These names first appear in an 8th century religious chronicle, Excerpta Latina Barbari, which is a Latin translation of a lost Greek manuscript probably composed in Alexandria roughly 2 centuries earlier. Another 8th century text, Collectanea et Flores, likewise a Latin translation from an original Greek account, continues the tradition of three kings and their names and gives additional details. Since Caspar, Balthazar, and Melchior are occult Magi and shepherds, the abbreviation CMB means that this bank serves representatives of real shadow, occult power, or at least claims to do so. Now, let's look at depictions of the Adoration of the Magi by Alessandro Botticelli. We will discuss this painting in more detail in the next video. For now, I will just briefly say that among all the characters depicted here, we find representatives of Florentine authority. Moreover, in real time, these people lived in different years, although in the painting they are presented together. This painting by Botticelli is a true group portrait of the shadow authority of the city. All the faces depicted here are identified, they belong to real people, except for the image of Joseph, who occupies the top of the hierarchical pyramid. However, modern anthropological methods of analysis allow us to identify this figure as well. Scientifically, an anthropological analysis of facial biometrics has shown that the figure of Joseph is represented by Marsilio Ficino, the head of the so-called Academy in Careggi. The Academy in Careggi was a well-known community of intellectuals in the late 15th century, which was supported and financed by the Medici clan. The Academy in Careggi played a role for the Medici clan, similar to what various scientific intellectual institutes and think tanks existing within the governments of major countries play today. On his painting, the artist Sandro Botticelli slightly altered Ficino's appearance, especially the color of his hair. However, for those knowledgeable about the subject, this camouflage did not hinder recognizing Marsilio in Joseph. As I mentioned earlier, we will talk about this painting and portraits of Marsilio Ficino by Botticelli a bit later, dear viewers. There are ancient mysteries here that are relevant even today. In his version of the Adoration of the Magi, located in the Medici Palace, the artist Benozzo Gozzoli completely disregards Jesus and the Virgin Mary. All attention here is unreservedly focused solely on the procession of the Magi and the attributes of their occult hierarchy within the power structure. And now let me give you another example of a specialist view on historical symbolism in the world. Here is the well-known flag of the European Union. Here, 12 golden stars are arranged in a circle on a blue background. What does this flag and symbol represent? Of course, most people believe that the stars represent the member states of the European Union, which must always negotiate and seek consensus around the table. However, the problem is that there have never been 12 members in the European Union. At different times there were more or fewer, but never 12. These stars are also not the apostles or Jesus. Here before you is a symbol, dear friends, which is constantly in front of our eyes, but unprepared people simply cannot read it. The 12 stars represent the 12 knights of King Arthur, arranged around the legendary Round Table. This entire composition together signifies the quest for the Holy Grail and the Grail itself. The blue background signifies blue blood, that is, aristocracy, which was the foundation of the European Union's creation and still governs this political structure to this day. Indeed, to understand that the so-called European Commission is incapable of governing Europe, it is enough to simply read the list of commissioners on Wikipedia, together with their powers and duties, and you will immediately understand that the entire European Commission is just a sham and a farce. Real power lies elsewhere. Through these two examples, I have attempted to show how and why the custodians of heritage and representatives of real power are interconnected. The only legal basis for the aristocrats from behind the scenes to claim power is their adherence to ancient tradition. There are no other grounds for usurpation, and the custodians of this tradition should be art historians. If you carefully read the biographies and CVs of people who are at the top of political or power structures, you will see that most of these people have an education in art history. Art historians are very useful to the power. True, with one caveat. Art historians must possess sufficient qualification for this, and qualification is exactly what we lack today. In the next videos, we will delve deeper into this topic, and I am also obliged to tell you a bit about myself to better elucidate the essence of the conflict with the art cartel. Subscribe to my channel, dear friends, it will only get more interesting from here.